Hi and welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to share with you guys my pregnancy, labor, and delivery story while it's still fresh in my head. So my husband and I, when we first got married, we had initially decided to wait about 4 years to have kids. 6 months into our marriage, I decided that I would go to the doctor's office, and since I was having irregular periods, see what she could do to fix it and make sure that I was able to have kids. So my doctor, she put me on birth control for 6 months. A couple months after I started the birth control, my husband and I, we got baby fever, so we decided that we wanted to start having kids after I finished the birth control. We started trying for a baby in October, and we were really disappointed to find out we weren't pregnant that first month. And then November, December, January, February, March, nothing. In March, my husband, he came to me and he was like, okay, let's stop and take a break until after I finish college. He had only a year and a half left, but I mean, I agreed. We were getting upset every single month whenever the pregnancy test came back negative. So at the end of March, in the beginning of April, I decided I would take one last pregnancy test. So I came home from work one day and I grabbed one of those dollar store pregnancy tests. I took it and I jumped into the shower, got out of the shower, and I took a look at it, and it had the tiniest little faintest line on there. And I was like, this can't be real. I mean, I can't be pregnant. Like, we were trying for like 6 months, nothing happened. I mean, the box itself says, don't read it after 10 minutes, and I was in the shower way longer than 10 minutes. But just in case, I decided I would take one in the morning. So in the morning, I got up like at 5 o'clock, and I took one of those ones that actually say positive, like a little plus sign. So I took it, and it had a little bit darker, but still faint, a positive on there. So I got so excited, I went out and I got one of those clear blue digital pregnancy tests. So I took that test, and sure enough, it said pregnant. I was super excited, and when I went to tell my husband, his reaction was like, oh, okay. And I'm like, what do you mean, oh, okay? We were trying for 6 months, and it's like, what happened? He's like, well, just give me some time, you know, it might take me just a little bit to get this information processed. And I was like, well, thank God I didn't record you. That was a really stupid reaction. And sure enough, the next day he did a full 180 and he's like, oh, we're pregnant, we're gonna have a baby. And he was super excited and he's like, it's gonna be a boy. We both wanted a boy really bad. So we went in for a dating ultrasound and found out that the baby was due December 23rd. So about 12 weeks into my pregnancy, we decided to announce to my husband's side of the family. They didn't have any nieces or nephews or grandkids or anything like that, so it was gonna be their first. So on Mother's Day, we went over to their house and we got my mom this like sign that said only the best parents get promoted to grandparents, and we attached a little picture of our ultrasound. And she was like, oh my gosh, they're gonna have a baby, and she was so excited, and it was really fun. We announced to my parents and my family a week later, and they were super excited also, but they already have 13 grandkids, so it wasn't quite the big deal as it is on my husband's side. So I had a fairly easy pregnancy. I had occasional problems like sciatica, carpal tunnel, and heartburn. At 37 weeks, I started to try to naturally induce my labor. I was eating pineapples, spicy foods, bouncing on an exercise ball, walking, squatting. I tried everything. And I went to see my midwife, and she told me I was only 1 centimeter and the baby hadn't even dropped. On December 23rd, at my 40-week appointment, I found out I was still only 1 centimeter and nothing really changed. My midwife and I, we decided that at the 41st week appointment, we would start talking about possibly inducing the labor. And I really did not want to be induced because I heard it's a lot more painful. We were really hoping that I wouldn't make it to my next appointment. On Wednesday morning, my mucus plug came out, and I spent the entire day cleaning my house, and I was on all fours scrubbing the floors and just getting everything ready. So that night, my husband and I came home from a really long walk, and I got into bed. It was like 11:45. I leaned over to put my phone on charge, and as I was leaning over, I felt like a pop in my stomach, and and I just felt water gush out. I looked over at my husband and I was like, I think my water just broke. And he was like jumping up and down. He was so excited, and I'm like, okay, calm down. My contractions haven't even started. Just go to sleep and I'll let you know if anything happens. So I fell asleep, but then I woke up like 12:30 with mild cramping. It felt like period cramps. And I was like, well, these aren't contractions, because I know what contractions are supposed to feel like. I read about it online, and these aren't contractions. I was kind of in denial, so I couldn't fall asleep after that. The cramps, they came every 30 minutes or so, and then it was every 20 minutes, and by 5 a.m. they were coming every 5 to 9 minutes, and they were lasting 30 seconds or more, and they got a lot stronger by then. But I was still not convinced that they were actually contractions, just because I read a lot of information online and it really misled me. So I called the clinic and I was talking to the front desk person, and I was like, I explained to her what was going on, and I'm like, I'm not even sure like if these are contractions. And she's like, honey, I have 5 kids. Those are contractions. Then I talked to my midwife and she told me to get some rest, eat something, and then come to the hospital and they will check me out. So I woke my husband up and I told him that we should go to the hospital in a couple hours, and he started kind of getting ready. We had something to eat, and the contractions by then were getting really strong, and they were coming like every 3 to 4 to 5 minutes, and they were lasting 30 seconds, and they were kind of painful. So we got to the hospital and I went to triage, and I told the nurse that I thought my water broke last night, and I don't think she believed me. She was like, okay. But she got me into the bed and she's like, we're gonna swab you to check if it's actually amniotic fluid, and they hooked me up to those little monitors to check out my contractions. And the other nurse came back and she's like, yep, that's amniotic fluid. And they checked me and I was 2 to 3 centimeters dilated. So they decided that they were gonna admit me at 8 o'clock in the morning. So my plan the whole time was to have an unmedicated birth. I did labor in the jet tub, which was amazing, and it really helped with the pain. I highly recommend it. They checked me again at 3 o'clock and I was only about 3 to 4 centimeters dilated at the time. So my midwife came to me and she told me that things are not moving fast enough. They wanted to start me on Pitocin. Ideally, they want you to give birth within 24 hours after your water breaks, because after that the risk of infection goes up. So I was like, no, please, no Pitocin. I don't want this to hurt. It already hurts a lot, and I can't imagine it getting any worse. So she was like, okay, we will give you 1 hour, and if you weren't 5 centimeters by then we're gonna start the Pitocin. And I was like, okay, we'll do that. So that hour I spent walking around, bouncing on an exercise ball, and my husband, he was amazing. He was walking me through it and he was helping me breathe through the pain, and it was really great, but it got really, really painful really fast. When the midwife came back after 1 hour, I was already in tears and I was in so much pain. And she checked me and she's like, okay, you're 5 centimeters, we won't start the Pitocin. She's like, but you look like you want that epidural. And I'm like, yeah, please. My husband was kind of upset because he was no longer needed. I was just confined to the bed and he felt pretty useless at that point. So the nurses were monitoring me and they kept rotating me with a peanut ball between my legs just so that the baby can descend and get into the right position. I tried to get some rest, but it was still hard to, with the nurses coming in and out. But things really slowed down after I got that epidural. My contractions didn't come as fast as they were because I was no longer active. I was just in bed. So we hit the 24-hour mark and I did get a fever. The baby's heart rate did go up. At around 5:20 in the morning on December 30th, I was about 9 to 10 centimeters dilated, and my midwife was like, okay, we want you to just try pushing and see where it goes. So I pushed through in contraction and the midwife checked me and she said, okay, you're 10 centimeters dilated, you can go ahead and push. So my husband was a big help through the pushing. He was running back and forth, he was watching me deliver, and then he was handing me the oxygen mask and water whenever I needed it. I pushed close to an hour So the whole time I kept my eyes closed and I like squeezed my face, which I highly recommend that you do not do. I was very disoriented. I opened my eyes and I just remember a lot of people in the room. There were so many people and they were kind of just like staring at me. But at that point I didn't really care. I was just like, get the baby out, get the baby out. Later I was told that they had to call code blue because the baby was stuck for 65 seconds. My midwife actually had to go in and pull him out by his shoulder. They placed him on my chest for what felt like a couple seconds, and I just remember thinking, why isn't he crying? They told me that, oh, he's just in shock. They took him away from me really quick. So while I was laying in the bed, I could only see my husband's face. He was looking at the baby, but the nurses, they all blocked my view of the baby. So my husband's face, I was looking at it and he was like, and I'm like, why are you making that face? What's wrong with the baby? And my husband came over to me and he was just like, oh, honey, you look good. Little did I know, when I went to the bathroom later on, I found out that my face was swollen, my eyelids were swollen, my eyes were bloodshot. That's why I don't recommend you squeezing your face when you are giving birth. They finally put the baby back on me and I held him for a while. He was 8 pounds, 10 ounces, and 21 1/4 inches long. Baby Theron was born December 30th at 6:19 a.m. So I didn't want visitors that entire day. After I gave birth, I was exhausted and I looked like some kind of creature. I did not want to see anyone and I didn't want anyone to see me. So the next morning we did have a couple visitors, although I still looked really bad. But my sister-in-laws finally got to see their first little nephew. And then at noon we were discharged. So that's my story. I hope you guys liked it. Please come back for more videos and don't forget to like, comment, and press that red subscribe button. Thank you. Bye. Here's my little honey bunny. He just woke up, so he's very, very cranky.